שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה לה לה, יא לה לה, יא לה לה, הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה, יא לה לה לה, יא לה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יא לה לה, יא לה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, ושבת אחים גם יחד. Once more, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
So we still have a few more hours for me to say the words Shabbat Shalom to you. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
In a moment, we're going to begin formally our service with a ceremony where Lamont is going to place on his shoulders for the very first time a ritual garment, a tallis, which spells out all the values, all the rights, all the rituals of what it means to be a full-fledged adult member of the Jewish community. But before we do that, just a few logistical announcements. Our usher today is Marge Grayson. If you need anything, you can ask her. There are prayer books on your way in. The large print prayer books are also available, as well as hearing-assisted devices. If for some reason today you need any kind of emergency exit, there's the exit you walked in, but notice there's also an exit here and an exit through the doors into the back. And bathrooms are outside to the right, though all gender and handicap accessible bathrooms are through the office to the back. Finally, if you see someone who's lost today, who don't know where they are on the page or in the prayer book, don't feel shy about reaching over and showing them. That way everybody can follow along. And even if services are new to you, sometimes just clapping your hands or humming along is simple and enough. So with that, we're going to do something kind of unorthodox. We're going to invite everybody up to hold a giant tallis over Lamont's head as he places it on his shoulders. And we're going to welcome, though she has already been on the bima, to the bima for an honor, Cantor Meredith Greenberg, who is wearing multiple hats, both Cantor and also dear, dear family friend, to place the tallis on your shoulders, Lamont. So we're going to all come up to the front.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veiteh Mitecha Od Yehalelucha Selah Od Yehalelucha Selah Ashrei Yoshvei Veiteh Mitecha Od Yehalelucha Selah Od Yehalelucha Selah. Yeah. Happy are those who dwell in your house, God. My favorite thing about that text is that it doesn't say any address of any kind. Leaves it entirely open to our understanding of what are the places where I'm going to know God. And what the text says is pretty simple. The place where you are filled with deep joy. So just look around. If God is not in this place, right? Where else? Where would God be? So this is the talit that I hope that you wear forever, and also that it becomes frayed and not new looking at all, because you wear it and mush it up all the time. And that you start with just wearing it like a real reminder that you are part of a people that always has your back as you wear it on yours. You want to use this one?
Okay. Bara Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu, lahit latev batzitzit.
Amen. There you go. Oh, he's so Jewish.
All right, we can head back
So
to our
Jewish.
seats.
Shkoach.
We're on page 220 as we chant responsively the full text of what we previewed in that beautiful melody just a moment ago. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yalalucha sela.
אשרי עם שככה לו, אשרי עם שאדוני אלוהיו.
Tehillah leDavid, or mimcha lo hamelech, v'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
בכל יום אברכך, וללה שמך לעולם ועד.
Gadol Adonai mula meod, v'ligdulato en cheker.
דור דור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
Hadar kivod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
וזוזנותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספחנה.
Zecher rab tuvecha yabihu, v'tzidchatacha yiranenu.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדל חסד.
Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
יודוך אדון כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
Kivod malchutecha yomeru, ugvuratacha yedaberu.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
Malchutecha malchut kol amim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einei kol elecha yisaberu, ve'atanote lahem et ochlam be'ito.
פותח את ידיך, ומסביר לכל חי רצון.
Tzadik Adonai bechol dorachav, v'chasid bechol ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
Ritzon Yerev Yaseh, v'et shavatam yishma v'yoshiyem.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד.
Tilat Adonai yadaripi, v'yivarek kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה.
We rise together for the Chatzi Kaddish, page 224.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ואמרתי ורחילותי ואמליך מלכותי בחייכון ובמכון ובחי כל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך. לעולם ולעולמי הלוויה.
Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויתעד ויומם ויתעשה ויתעד ותעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמילן ביולמה ואימרו אמן.
We're on page 226 as Lamont leads us in our Avot and Gevurot.
Adonai sifatai tifta, ufi yagita hilateha.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך.
Bara Ata Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Elohei Leah, Ha El Hagado Hagibor Hanora El Yon Gomer Hasadim Tovim Zakone Yako Lezoher Hasde Avovim Mahu Umeviga Wahu Zavenehem Laman Shemon Ahava Meleo Zerma Siamagan Bara Ata Adonai Magen Abraham Ves Rasara Atagi Borle Olam Adonai Mehaya Koatara Leoshia Morid Hata Mehalkel Haim Behesed Mehaye Hakol Berahamim Rabim Zomet Nofli Eofe Holim Umatir Asurim Umeshayim Emunato Vishane Yafo Mihamoha Ball Giver Out Umidome let me Umeshayim Utmatmi Yeshua Venemana Lehayod Hako Bara Ata Adonai Mehaye Hako.
מקדש את שמך בעולם, כי שם מקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו אחד הוא אלוהינו ואבינו מלכנו ומושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך, קדושתך נקדיש, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך, קדושתך נקדיש, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך, בשכחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם לעולם ועד. בשכחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We'll continue in silence through page 242, and you can be seated when you're finished. It's customary to pray for peace after our Amidah. And so I want to call up Leora Perlman to read a special reading before she and Cantor Greenberg sing that special prayer for peace.
O God, may we never become complacent, faltering in our efforts to build a world of peace. Let the nations know and understand that justice and right are better than dominion and conquest. May all come to see that it is not by might nor by power, but by your Spirit that life prevails.
We're actually not going to sing a prayer for peace because we had a prettier thing that we wanted to sing instead. That comes right before or right after, depending on what you're calling the prayer for peace, and it is a text that just says, even when I am tested and other people are saying or doing and it is hurting me, may I not join them in that toxic, painful way of living. May I keep sourcing from a place of love, even if it means just zipping my lips. It's right there in the liturgy.
אלוהי נצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי 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 נצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי בתוך ליבי בתוך ושפתיים מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי 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 נצור לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני אדוני צורי וגואלי
We're going to turn the page now. We're on page 244 as we move into Seder Kriyat Torah. And so, Lamont, in addition to you coming up, we're going to call up your parents, Jonathan and Joanna, and we're going to call up your grandmother, Sunny. We're going to pass the Torah, Lador Vador, from generation to generation. We'll also call up Beth Pine and Robert Pine, who will open up our ark. And so for all of those who I mentioned, you can come to the bima. Everyone else, we rise together, page 244.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אב הרחמים, היטיב ברצונך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים. כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך ארם ונישא, אדון עולמים.
Pass our Torah door by door from generation to generation.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יגדיו. ידי די 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 ידי די 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 ידי די 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 ידי די די ידי די 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 ידי די 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 ידי די 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 yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai.
You can be seated together. So in a moment, Lamont, I'm going to call you up and you're going to become our teacher for the afternoon. It's customary not just to read this text, but to contextualize it. And for those who are kind of following along this morning, the portion is actually going to be a different portion than the morning. It's customary on Shabbat afternoon not to read the portion of the week, but actually to preview the portion in the upcoming week. And so this next Shabbat, we begin Parshat Bamidbar, the first portion in the book of Numbers, and Lamont is going to preview that for us this afternoon as we prepare to move into the week of studying that portion. And so it's my pleasure to call up our teacher this afternoon, Lamont. Come on up.
Shabbat Shalom. My Torah portion is called Parshat Bimidbar. In it, God tells Moses to count the men of fighting age that are Israelites. They had to be over the age of 20 and able to bear arms. The rest of my portion is the names of the heads of each tribe and how many people were in total. For example, Reuben had 46,500 people. Simeon had 59,300 people. God had 45,650 people, and so on. The total number reached was 603,550. After reading my portion, I was left with a question: why only count the men of fighting age? The answer is because defense is really important. Just in case someone attacks, they'll have an army and they'll know how to defend themselves. But what exactly are they defending against? The Israelites already know what to expect from the Egyptians because they just escaped them. While in Egypt, they were enslaved, they were forced to give up their male children, they were lied to, and they were chased out by an army even when they said they could leave peacefully. Maybe they were worried that the Egyptians would come back and attack them again. Also, while they already know the Egyptian army, they don't know about the people in the land that they are going to. They need an army to be prepared for them too. These people who were living there would not want to move. Maybe these people had a strong army and would kill them all. Since they don't want to be attacked by both sides at the same time, by the Egyptians from behind and the Canaanites up ahead, they need to really pay attention to the army. Pay attention to their army. What this means is that people were afraid of the unknown and using their army to make sure that if bad or unexpected things happen, they could defend themselves. In my own life, I also have to go out of my way to plan for the unknown. Preparing for my bar mitzvah was like the Israelites preparing their army. I didn't know what to expect. My siblings all had bar mitzvahs before me, so I kind of know what to expect, but I was so young and I barely remember what they went through to prepare. But like the Israelites, I gathered my reinforcements. I learned how to read Hebrew. I learned the trope when I had to work on my blessings and work on this davar. To do that, I had to make sure I had people along the way to help me. But that's not the only time I had to prepare. Another time I had to prepare is when I started middle school. I was in a new school with new people and teachers, and I went to a school that none of my siblings went to. I had to make sure, I had to make new friends. I had to adjust to going to school in person because I was doing online school because of COVID. I was not used to getting up early and going to school in person. I had a new schedule, new classes, and I was in a new building. I didn't know where any of my classes were, but over time I learned to plan ahead and get things in place that would make it feel familiar. I made friends who helped me get through school. I also asked my family for help and support. I put these things in place before things got too hard, so I knew I could make it. Like the army was for the Israelites, I made sure everything was in place for me to succeed at my new school. When you're trying something new, it's hard to prepare fully or do it perfectly. The best you can do is try to be the most prepared possible. You will never do something perfectly on your first try, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do better if you hadn't prepared. So when I went to my new school, even though I thought I tried setting things up in advance, I still couldn't do it perfectly. And it was still scary, but since I had help preparing from my parents, teachers, and peers, it made it a bit easier. You can't control everything, but you can control how scary it feels. The main point of my davar is that preparing is very important. I think that's why the Israelites were counting the men of fighting age. They wanted to be sure they had an army to protect themselves. The Israelites wanted to be prepared, so they were less scared of the Egyptians who could be following them and the people in the promised land who were unknown. I think it is really important to do the best you can to prepare yourself for what's ahead of you, but at the same time, remember your past and learn from it like the Israelites did. We can't possibly be prepared for everything that might happen because we can't predict the future. We can gather our forces, so if we run into trouble, we have a support system. What type of supports do you have in place for future unknowns? When you leave here, think about who your army is. Shabbat Shalom.
Beautiful teaching, Lamont. I'm going to get a chance to respond to your really thoughtful words and challenge a little bit later. But first, we got to read a little Torah. So hopefully everyone's gotten one of these packets. Lamont's going to be reading 3 times throughout the course of our afternoon, and you'll see his portion. And for our first aliyah, we're going to call up your siblings, Noah, Beza, Sydney, and Sahai. Ya'amdu, Noach Mordechai ben Yosefa v'Yonatan, Bina Ruth bat Yosefa ben Yonatan, Shulamit Yael bat Yosefa v'Yonatan, Sahara Etana bat Yosefa v'Yonatan la'aliyah laTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai bel hamoed behad lachodesh hasheni b'shanai hasheni letzetam meretz Mitzrayim lemor Sa'u et Rosh Koledah b'nei Yisrael Lemishpahotam, Leve Avotam, Bemispar, Shemo, Kozahar, Legul Gilotam, Mi Ben Esrim, Shana, Vamala, Koyose Sava, Be Yisrael, Tivkedu, Otam, Lechivotam, Atave Aharon, Vraihem, EU, Yish, Mamate, Yish, Rosave Avotavu.
Is it on here? On the first day of the second month, in the second year following the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, "Take a census of the whole Israelite company of fighters by the clans of its ancestral houses, listing the names, every male, head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups from the age of 20 years up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a participant from each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house." Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
And for our second aliyah, Lamont, I'm going to call your parents up. Ya'amdu, Yosefa bat Yaakov v'Sima, Yonatan ben Abraham la'aliyah laTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ve'ele shomo ha'anashim asher yamdu ihem Leuven Elisor ben Shadeor Lashimon Shlumiel ben Shurishadai Leuda Nachshon ben Aminadav Leisaskar Netanel ben Suar.
These are the names of the participants who shall assist you. From Reuben, Elizur, son of Shedeur. From Simeon, Shelumiel, son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nachshon, son of Amidai. From Issachar, Netanel, son of Zuar.
It's okay. It wasn't English.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And so you guys can actually stay up here if you want. That way your whole family is surrounding you, Lamont, as I call you up formally as Bar Mitzvah. Ya'amod, 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 Lior Shmuel ben Yosefa v'Yonatan lali ala Torah, Chazak v'amatz.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Lizvulun Eliav ben Helon, Livnei Yosef, Lephraim, Elishama ben Amihud, Limnashe, Gamliel ben Pidatsor, Levin Yamin, Avridan ben Gedoni, Ladan, Ahiezer ben Amishadai.
From Zebulun, Eliab, son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph. From Ephraim, Elishama, son of Amihud. From Manasseh, Gamliel, son of Pedachsur. From Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. From Dan, Achiezer, son of Amishadai.
That's great.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet mehaye olam nata betohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We get our candy ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu mekiyemanu nehigianu lazman hazeh. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov.
All right, we need help picking up the candy too. So if you're young or young at heart, we don't go on until all the candy's up. So come help us pick some up. Come on up.
ולכל ישראל, יהילנו, יהילנו.
All the candy's got to come up, so we need help picking it up. Come on up. Those who are young and young at heart, come on up.
ולכל ישראל, יהילנו, יהילנו. ולכל ישראל. We're going to buzz the floor for you with you.
Yes. I actually wasn't joking. We don't go on until it's up, so we need a couple people to come grab some candy. Come, come, come. Don't be shy. Be young at heart. We need it all up. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. And Lamont, don't go far because your parents have some special words that they've prepared, and we're going to invite them to the Bima now to share those with you.
Okay, you stay there.
Okay, I will.
So this is my chance to give him a little blessing. Lamont, I'm not going to embarrass you, my perfect little sweet and handsome smart boy. How am I doing?
Good.
Okay. Lamont, actually, you amaze me. You are incredibly, I said I was going to get through it. All right, you are incredibly kind and loving. You are whip smart and hilariously funny. Your ability to adapt is astounding. You didn't choose to have a bar mitzvah, as you always remind me. But you have risen to the occasion. And though you might not have chosen this, you have taken your studies seriously. As you said, you gathered together your own personal tiny little army to support you. And the thing is, you know what works for you and what doesn't. Lamont, the world is not always fair. Not everybody comes into the world. Not everybody comes into the world with one mother and ends up with another. And while I can't really imagine the impact of that loss, I can see in you a child who has the resilience to face whatever challenges may arise. And I will always be here should you need to call in your reinforcements. My blessing for you, Lamont, is that you continue to grow into the man you were meant to be, that you take the lessons you learned preparing for your bar mitzvah, the perseverance, the forward movement, even when there were stumbles, the belief in yourself, in your own inherent goodness and worth, that you take these truths with you into the life you make for yourself. Mazel tov, my sweet boy. You are amazing, and I continue to be amazed by you.
Hi. First and always, I'm so proud of the young man that you are becoming. You've impressed me from a very early age with your observations and wit, and you've got remarkable insight, and always have. I'm often surprised by the complexity of your emotions. You can move from playful and sarcastic to deeply empathetic and loving in the blink of an eye, and if the blink of an eye doesn't work, tickling usually does. What an amazing growth spurt you've had this past year, physically, emotionally, and academically. For as long as I can remember, you've wanted to be taller than me. And like a sprint to the finish line, just this past week, you became so. That carries with it a responsibility of gentleness and something you've been growing into, helpfulness. I so appreciate this transition. When you were younger, transitions concerned me. You now handle change with a new maturity and grace. It's a pleasure to experience. Be an example of positivity and compassion, as I believe that is your true nature. Working toward this day has been transformative for you. In the beginning, you were kind of going through the motions, but at a certain point, you realized how far you had come and decided to truly apply yourself. That is an amazing life lesson. When we realize what we are capable of, when we apply ourselves, we then possess the recipe for success. So here you are, poised, just as you were at our Catskills house at the age of 7, and you ran straight for our 20-foot deep pond and cannonballed in. So it is with life. Muster up your courage, take the plunge. You got this, man. By the way, Monty, I love you.
It's true.
You can take a seat. Before we lift and dress our Torah and prepare to return it, there's a special prayer that we often recite with our Torah out before us, a prayer for the state of Israel. And so I'm going to call up Nami Rotke, who's going to read that prayer now. If you want to follow along, it's on page 259. And as Nami comes up, I want to thank her for all the amazing work that she's done with Lamont and with so many of our students, and also say that sometimes when we say this prayer, it feels pro forma, and sometimes our hearts really are in the East. And as we pray for this peace, our hearts especially go out with the outbreak of violence in Israel right now to all of those who are scared. And so page 259.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר אמן.
I'll invite you to rise as we prepare to lift and dress our Torah, and then we'll move immediately to putting our Torah away. And I want to call Stephanie Lukes and Michael Pine up to open our ark when that time comes, which is now.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני מיד משה. אתך חיים היא, למה חזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה, דרכי נועם מכל ניבותיה, שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
You may be seated.
Lamont, beautiful job. Amazing chanting, amazing prayer leading, and amazing teaching. And it's my pleasure each week to get a chance to riff off what our student speaks about, to build off their thoughtful words. And your words were incredibly thoughtful. The idea is that in our life, there's a lot of unknowns. And as you said, just like the Israelites were about to enter into this promised land that they didn't potentially know what was going to be. They had no idea, by the way, at this point in Jewish history, that they were going to end up wandering as punishment in the desert for 40 years. They actually thought when they were mustering their troops, they were actually going to be entering soon. And so spending all that time counting up their troops meant that at least they had a semblance of control in a world that often feels like it's out of control. And you talked about all of the mustering of the troops that you do. The people you surround yourself with, family, friends, teachers like Nami and like Ronnie, who can bring you to this day, right? Who can help you know that you know your Torah portion and that you're going to be able to speak. And teachers like Cantor Greenberg, who can help you to understand where your Judaism lies, what it means to become a teenager, why you care about this ancient religion. And then you talked about the challenge of trying to put everything in order and not to know whether it's actually going to succeed. And that, by the way, is one of the problems and the reasons that many of us don't often put things in order. It's because we know that as soon as we do, it's all going to fall apart, and that's okay. Part of living is failing, but failing forward. Part of living is making mistakes, but learning from them and moving on. We can't live perfect lives. And sometimes, by the way, when you try to live perfect lives, it just doesn't work. There's a famous story about a rabbi. He's actually the father of the Musar movement. His name is Israel Salanter. And one of the things that he famously did was he would take a finger when everybody would sit down for a beautiful Shabbat dinner, place it in the wine, then take his finger and put it on the white tablecloth and watch as the wine spread on the white tablecloth. Now, why would he do that? It's because he sat through enough dinners where it was white tablecloths and white napkins and people were dressed nice, and nobody actually wanted to pass anything to one another. Nobody ever wanted to eat hurriedly or slowly. Nobody ever wanted to do anything that would mess up the decor. That in fact, it was in the service of the table that they were eating, not in the service of the relationships. So what did he do? He made the first mistake of the night on purpose. He dirtied the tablecloth so that every single person would feel comfortable dirtying the tablecloth for the rest of the night. No longer was it a pristine spread. Instead, it was a mistake in waiting, which, by the way, is the way our life is. Our life are a series of mistakes in waiting. And although we can do everything possible to muster those troops, we actually have no idea what the future will hold. Now, I made reference to this before, but imagine the people have just left Egypt. They've just figured out that their troops number 600,000. They're ready to enter the promised land. And then they make a tragic flaw one of the biggest flaws in all of Jewish history. They send 12 scouts into the promised land, which we're going to read about in a few weeks, to just check it out, to see what it looks like. 10 of them come back and they say, this land is amazing, but the people there are scary. We will never be able to win. I'm not sure whether it's smart to enter in. The other 2 come in, and their names are Joshua and Caleb. And they say, you're right. The land is amazing. But we got to try. We may fail, but God is at our side, so I'm not sure we will. And of the 10 who say don't go and the 2 who say go, guess who wins? The 10. They sway all of the people who cry out to God in fear, not wanting to enter into the promised land. And God says to those people, you're not ready to go. In fact, you're so used to being slaves, because remember, they just left Egypt at the time, that I'm going to make you wander for 40 years in the desert. And then only when your generation has died off and a new generation who never knew slavery arises, are you going to be able to enter the promised land. Now, the people cry out in pain. This is a big mistake that they've made. And in fact, mustering those troops, I guess, was kind of irrelevant because they don't get to enter. They wander, not aimlessly, but they wander for 38 more years, adding totally up to 40, until finally at the end of the Torah, the people are on the precipice of entering. And we find out in the book of Joshua what happens when they do. They've failed, but they failed forward. Because in learning from this, they've learned to trust God more. They've learned that they're stronger than they think that they are. They've learned that faith matters. They've learned that there's power in numbers. They've learned that the people collectively, united, can do anything. They've changed Jewish history for the better. And so was it a failure? I don't think so. I think it was steps along the way. Now, I'm a big basketball fan recently. I was only basically a big basketball fan for the past 2 months once my son got me into it. He's 4 years old and he just discovered it. But Giannis, who is probably arguably top 5 player of the past few years, maybe the best player of the past few years, one of the most successful. He's on the Milwaukee Bucks. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. They've mustered their troops. They have the best record. And they lose to the Miami Heat in the first round of the playoffs. By the way, so did the Knicks last night, but we'll leave it be. And Giannis is asked by someone during a press conference, look, you were the best team. Like, you'd mustered your troops. Do you see this as a failure? And his answer was really telling, and I'm actually not sure I agree with it. I mean, they were the number 1 team and they lost to the 8th seed. But like, he says, Michael Jordan, arguably the best player ever in basketball, won 6 championships, but he played for 15 seasons. Would you call the 9 seasons that he didn't win a championship a failure? Giannis says this was steps along the way. And although we didn't win this year, we're going to fail forward and we're going to win next year. We're going to do better. We're going to learn from things. We're going to grow from things. Not winning is not a failure. Not winning is an opportunity for growth. And that was the way it was for the Jews as they were wandering through the desert. And that's the way that it always is for us. Lamont, you did an amazing job today. But if you'd completely flubbed up here, you would have grown as a person through that experience. You would have become more resilient. You would have been able to laugh at yourself a little better. You would have done all of that. And it wouldn't have been a failure. If you went to your new school and it didn't work out for you, you might have felt like it was a failure, but it wouldn't have been. You would have learned a little more about the kind of friendships that you look for. You would have learned a little bit more about the kind of schools that you value. You would have learned a little bit more about the teachers that you need. As much as we want to muster our troops, as much as we want to succeed, we have to let ourselves slip every once in a while and not hold ourselves too accountable. We have to proverbially dirty the spread in front of us, dirty that tablecloth, because in doing so, it will help us grow. If we are too afraid to fail, if we just want to put things in place to succeed, we'll never take the kind of risks in our life that the world needs and that we need. And so allow yourself to fall flat on your face every once in a while, because that means you were truly living. So Lamont, I want to call you up to the bima. You can come stand right here. So I've watched you grow over these years. And when I first met you, you were, the way I knew you was you were Sahai's little brother, right? She was in my confirmation class, and there were you, little Lamont, running around. And you've grown into this amazing person, this person of depth of character, this person of incredible kindness, this person of determination and hard work, a teacher for me and for all of us. You're no longer that little kid now. And by the way, I don't think you were that little kid when you woke up yesterday either. Today just kind of is the celebration of the fact that you are your own person, carrying yourself in your own way. And of all the attributes that I've seen of you, your tenderness toward your family and friends, I think, is the thing that I admire the most. I've watched you interact with your parents on Zooms with your parents. I've watched you interact with your siblings. And first of all, you come from a really loving family. You should feel lucky about that every day. But secondly, you show love back. Your heart is so big. And you're not afraid, even though you're 13 years old and you're a boy, to really kind of lean your head on your mom's shoulder every once in a while, to give your dad a big hug. And that matters, because often the world tries to close us up. And what the world needs is just more open-hearted people, more big bear hugs, more love, more greetings of huge smiles that you give. And we're all beneficiaries of your huge heart. And so carry that through. Now, I want to say something about that big heart, which is people who are big-hearted tend to get hurt more than people who are not. But you have to let people in enough that sometimes they're going to hurt you. Because in order to do that, that means you've really shown them the fullness of that giant heart, and everybody will be touched by it. 95% of the people you come across are going to respond to that huge heart, and they're going to show their big heart back to you. And in doing so, you're going to open people up and add more love into the world everywhere you go. So I want to offer a blessing, the oldest blessing that exists in the Jewish tradition, the priestly benediction. I want to call Cantor Greenberg up, our clergy associate Ronnie Pressman, and I want to invite Nami Rotke up as well, since she was such an integral part of your journey to get here today. And I'll invite everybody to lift up their hands to be part of the blessing as well.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May God bless you and protect you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
May God cause God's face to shine upon you and give you grace.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May God always smile upon you and grant you a life of wholeness and peace.
Can ye ratzon, may it be God's will, and let us say Amen.
So stay up here for one more moment, because I want to call one of our past presidents, Marge Grayson, up to offer a few gifts and some greetings.
Lamont, it's a real pleasure to be here. You are the fifth Luke's bar mitzvah that I have given the gifts out to, and what an honor that is. And I also, when you talked about what's unexpected, I'm sure when at your big brother's bar mitzvah, no one could have imagined this day, and what a wonderful day it is, and how what a pleasure it's been watching you grow up, and what a fabulous job you did today. So mazel tov to you. Got lots of stuff here for you from the temple. And congratulations to you and your family. And guess what? You get to sit down now.
Yay.
Well, actually, you get to go back to your seat. Everyone's going to stand because we're on page 282 for Elenu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpechot adam ha, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We remain standing, turning to page 294 as our thoughts go out to those that we've loved and lost. As my eyes go around the room, I'll invite you to share names of people for whom you're thinking. We join together, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yom echon v'chayet l'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitnomam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barechu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram b'yamav v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Please be seated. So in a moment, we're going to move into our closing of our service, which is our Havdalah service, page 308. Page 308. And I want to call up to help us lead that service, really to hold the spices and the candles and the wine, the Perlman Greenberg boys, Eyal, Nadav, and Gilad. And we'll turn the lights off a little bit or low as we join together in this beautiful melody as we transition from the end of Shabbat into the rest of the week. Rick Abrams. We can rise together.
First line.
ya la 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 ya la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei visamim borei minei visamim borei minei visamim la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 raise it up Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdir ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim ben yom hashvi'i לששת ימי המעשה ברוך אתה אדוני Dip it in. המבדיל בין קודש לחול המבדיל בין קודש לחול עטותינו ימחול זרענו וכספנו ירבה כחול והכוכבים בלילה שבוע טוב 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 אליהו הנביא אליהו עבדי שבי אליהו 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 הגלעדי במהרה בימינו יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד עם משיח לי לי לה 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 לי 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 לה 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 לי 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 יא לה לי 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 יא לה לי לי יא לה לי יא לי לה לה לי לי יא לי יא לה לי לי יא לה לי one more time יא la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la la Mazel Tov Lamont and Shabbat Tov.
Shabbat Tov, everyone. Our service is now concluded. Shabbat Tov.